Yo, so in this tutorial, I wanted to go ahead and talk about how I do the final Bowser fight in New Super Luigi U and New Super Mario Bros. U. Really works for both. I'm going to be referencing Luigi U because that's what I run, but like I said, you'll modify movement slightly, but still works for Mario. I know that a lot of people struggle with this boss fight. I mean, even like top level experienced runners still have their moments. I've lost many a race and tournament match in PB to this boss fight. Even though I've put in lots of hours and I'm very consistent at this boss fight. So I thought in case there are people who are out there that are struggling and wanting to find a way to make this boss fight easier, I'm just showing off how I personally do this boss fight, and it gets me about 90% consistent at this point. So anyways, I'm just gonna, go up here. We can skip all of this. Now, okay, when we get here, Bowser comes up, and he's gonna breathe a fireball. And you'll notice when Bowser breathes this fireball, let's go back and rewind that again. So Bowser comes up and, oh my god, I suck at scrubbing. Okay. When Bowser breathes this fireball, right as it gets close to touching the ground, I do a full hop as Luigi. In New Super Mario Bros. U, you'd want to do a spin jump. Because spin jump is what gets you maximum height, but in NSLU, because of your floaty physics, just a normal jump is just fine. And when I get to the peak of my normal jump, I fly up, and this time I flew to the right, but sometimes I'll also go to the left. It doesn't matter. As long as you fly up and get on the same level as Bowser Jr., it will cause him to fly down with the cart. So he comes down, and I ground pound him. The reason you ground pound, it's a little bit faster because if you just jump on him, you bounce back up, and then you have to go back down into the car. Whereas if you ground pound, you not only knock Bowser Jr. out of the clown car, but you get in the clown car at the exact same time. So I get up there, and I fly up, and I try to hit his nose. You'll see that. So I go back, and I went a little bit too far back. But anyways, there's that again. And I go and I try and hit Bowser's nose because, again, you want to hit Bowser as fast as possible, which means since you're normally going to be you always are going to be on the left side of him, you want to hit him on as far left as possible. So I try and aim for his nose and hit his nose. And that gets me a hit. Now, usually, and I mean, Bowser's movement, I do believe, is dependent on RNG, so it depends. But to play it safe, what I will do is usually Bowser Jr. is really close to the clown car and will jump into the clown car possibly very quickly. So what I do is after I hit Bowser in that hit, I'm holding the jump button to go into a glide. And you'll see Bowser Jr., you'll see what it happened right there. Bowser Jr. went right into his clown cart. So because I was holding glide, I'll show that again. Because I'm holding, you can't see it because it's invisible. But because I'm holding glide here, it makes it easier for me to come over to the right side of the screen and snipe it from Bowser Jr., which you see that I do here. And then you get up, and this is usually this is the part that I usually see runners struggle with, is trying to figure out how to avoid the Bowser shell. So the first thing I do to avoid the Bowser shell is I just get the heck out of there. I move to the right as much as I can, until Bowser does this first big hop here. And once Bowser does his first big hop once, I immediately start moving to the left, towards Bowser. And you'll see me do that here. And now, once Bowser lands and I'm on the left side of him, I basically want to alternate holding left and right, depending on where Bowser is. So when I am on the left side, when Bowser's mostly to the right of me, I want to start moving to the right. And when Bowser is mostly to my left, I want to start moving to the left. So you'll see Bowser's mostly on my right, so at this point, I start holding right on the control stick. Bowser's mostly on the left, so I start holding left on the control stick. Bowser's on the right, so I start holding right on the control stick. And once Bowser does this jump here, the next jump he will do is him coming out of his shell, so you can start moving to the left or right, depending on where you ended up. You can start moving back towards Bowser at that point. Fuck. Now, you noticed I was a little bit far away, So it made it hard for me. It meant I lost a little bit of time trying to come to Bowser. So the closer you can stay to Bowser when he comes out of his shell, of course, the faster your boss fight will be. This was very, very slow and very, very far away. Fuck. So then I go and I hit him, and I usually aim for his arms. Usually his arm... The hitbox for the second and third hits are pretty gracious. So, again, I'm not trying to hit as close to the edge of him as possible. I probably could have hit a little bit further to the right, actually, even. And again, when I pop out, I'm still holding the jump button, just in case Bowser Jr. is close again to the clown car. And if he's not close to the clown car, then I can just drop down and hit him. It's really important, though, that before you get in that clown car, you hit Bowser Jr. and make him go into his shell before you get in the clown car. Because if you stun Bowser Jr., it gives you an easy out to get in the clown car without Bowser Jr. sniping it from you. So you notice he was not going towards the clown car, so I noticed that, and I dropped my glide, and I went to try and hit him. So that's probably the hardest part, is this Bowser Jr. snipe here, depending on where Bowser Jr. goes. He was actually really close to getting back in the clown car again. I probably could have avoided dropping my glide there. But that's the basic idea. And then you just repeat the process. So you get in, you go all the way to the left, he jumps up. Once he jumps up, I start going to the right. Now that he's mostly on my left, I start holding left. He's mostly right, so I start holding right. He's mostly left, so I start holding left. Bowser comes out, and once he does that one big jump, again, the next jump is him popping out of the shell. And then you can go in for the final hit. Now, again, I was pretty far away, again, so I lost a little bit of time trying to get to Bowser. But that's the basic idea of how I do the Bowser fight, and me doing this actually gets it really consistent for me. I get it about, I don't know, I would say about 90% of the time. I do still mess up this boss fight, but now that I've figured this out and do this type of movement, it's not often that I mess up this boss fight anymore. So hopefully you guys found this helpful.